All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating shift happening right now in data architecture. And honestly, this isn't just about big tech vendors fighting for market share. This is a fundamental evolution that's going to directly impact your day-to-day work. It is completely redefining the role of the data engineer. We are officially leaving the era of the data warehouse wars, and we're stepping squarely into the era of the AI agent. So let's dive right into a central mystery from our source material. Think about the last 10 years, right? Analytics platforms have relentlessly told us that we have to keep our transactional databases totally separate from our analytical ones. I mean, we were basically trained to build these massive pipelines between them. So why on earth are the biggest analytics giants on the planet suddenly buying up transactional databases? To see just how serious this pivot is, look at the money changing hands. Back in May of 2025, Databricks dropped roughly $1 billion to acquire Neon. Now, Neon is a serverless Postgres company. That's pretty much the definition of an unglamorous, transactional workhorse just sitting behind ordinary apps. $1 billion for Postgres? And it wasn't just a one-off thing. Just months later, Snowflake followed suit. They purchased Crunchy Data, which is another enterprise Postgres outfit, for around $250 million. Notice that neither of these targets are analytics tools. They're operational databases. The cloud data warehouse has quietly, but very definitively, stopped being just a place where you run queries.
Which brings us to part one, the catalyst. Autonomous AI agents are changing all the rules.
There's this staggering statistic highlighted by our source from inside Neon. More than 80% of all their databases were created by AI agents and code generation tools, spinning up environments on demand. Let that sink in for a second. Over 80%. These aren't being built by human data engineers provisioning infrastructure. They are literally being spun up by autonomous code in real time. This brilliantly illustrates the core problem we're facing. Think about the old world of dashboards. A dashboard is perfectly happy to just sit there, grab a coffee, and wait for a nightly batch ETL to run. But autonomous agents, they have absolutely zero patience. They need real-time state, instant vector retrieval, and on-the-fly provisioning. Traditional batch ETL, the high latency plumbing we've built our entire careers on, is the exact bottleneck that breaks these agents. Because agents need instantaneous access, the ultimate prize these platforms are so aggressively chasing is what we call zero ETL. Just imagine a world where your operational data lands in the exact same open storage that your analytics tools and your machine learning models already read from. No complex pipelines to build, no change data capture lag, and no redundant copies to keep in sync. That is the new baseline you need if you want to support a true AI agent runtime. So moving on to part two, the great platform convergence. If you strip away all the slick marketing and the brand names and just look at a breakdown of the top 5 vendors, the pattern is impossible to miss. Snowflake has Unistore and Cortex, Databricks has AgentBricks, Google wraps BigQuery and Gemini. Sure, they each have standout strengths, and they definitely have specific catches like premium pricing or deep ecosystem lock-in with Azure Fabric, but structurally, they are all building variations of the exact same underlying architecture. All of this collapses into what our source is calling the modern data singular. Those neat little categories we had for the past decade, warehouses, lakes, operational databases, they're fusing into 4 key pillars. 1, an open storage layer. 2, both transactional and analytical workloads sitting right on top of it. 3, an AI runtime layered over that. And 4, a single governance catalog ruling the entire estate. Which leads to part 3. Moving beyond benchmarks. Now, if you're a veteran data engineer, I know what you're thinking. You might object here and say, hey, compute costs still matter. And honestly, you'd be absolutely right. Just consider the spread on a standard 100 billion row benchmark. A specialized columnar engine can run a job for under $20, while other major platforms like BigQuery or Snowflake can cost anywhere from 32 to 1,000 times more for the exact same unoptimized full table scan. Anyone who says the engine doesn't matter has clearly never been handed a surprise 5-figure cloud bill. But here is the crucial mind shift for us as data engineers. For these agentic workloads that are defining the next 3 years, raw scan speed is rarely the binding constraint anymore. Think about it. A query that runs in 1 second instead of 3 is essentially useless if the data the agent actually needs is trapped in last night's batch process. Pipeline latency is the real enemy now, not scan speed.
So, if the benchmark beauty contests are out, how do you actually choose your stock? Well, it comes down to a new set of criteria. First up, data gravity and ecosystem lock-in. Second, utilizing open formats, things like Iceberg and Delta, as your primary hedge to protect against that lock-in. And third, and honestly perhaps the most important piece, the governance catalog.
Because when your transactional records, your analytical tables, your unstructured files, and your autonomous agents all share one single storage layer, your governance catalog becomes the single most critical component you own. Tools like Snowflake Horizon, Databricks Unity Catalog, or Microsoft Purview, they aren't just back-office compliance features anymore. They are literally the control plane. If you can't trace lineage across this unified estate, your AI agents are a massive liability waiting to happen.
All right, let's bring it home with part 4, the new data engineer.
We really need to talk about what this paradigm shift actually means for your week and for the future of your career. There is a stark shift happening in where your engineering value comes from. You've got to pivot away from the depreciating skill of optimizing single query speeds. By 2026, the platforms are largely doing that for you under the hood anyway. That skill is becoming a commodity. Instead, you need to focus on the appreciating skill, architecting and governing this unified data to AI control plane. Our source sums this up perfectly. You need to be the one deciding where transactional state, vectors, and agents should sit, and exactly who is accountable for them. By mastering that unified governance, you elevate your role. You go from being a commodity worker who just makes queries run a little bit faster to becoming the indispensable architect in the room. The benchmark one-upmanship of the warehouse wars is effectively over. I mean, everyone is arriving at the exact same architecture anyway. The contest that actually matters now is building the operating system for AI agents, and the criteria have fundamentally changed. So as you process this explainer, I'll leave you with this. Are you adapting your skills to govern this new data singular? Thanks so much for hanging out with me to explore this today, and I'll catch you next time.